Hello and welcome to the happiest day of my life. This is a 1999 Toyota Century. It was brought in our shop a while back basically it's just imported to the US, 25 years old. It is a beautiful color. I really like this color. And it has 63,000 kilometers. That's not a lot. However, this car has been sitting in Japan for a very, very long time. Basically, the owner got the car, put a battery in it, put a set of tires, and brought it straight here. Didn't drive it anywhere because there is a lot of things that this car needs even with low mileage. And this is not a Corolla, Camry, 80 Series Land Cruiser, 100 Series Land Cruiser. This is a V12 Century. That is... Yeah, in today's video, we're gonna fix this car, which means we're gonna dive into this V12 because there's a lot to do here. And we're gonna take a quick tour here to show you what's going on and what this needs. And then we're gonna get right into it. And while we go into it, it's gonna be a time lapse. We'll talk to you about the Toyota Century, some interesting stuff about it because I'm just fascinated by this car. Let's take a look under the hood. This is the happiest day of my life because we get to work on Toyota's only V12 with, yeah, it has one of those guillotines. Let me get something on this because it's a little scary. This is not a light hood. So the first lesson about the V12 is you can't put the regular clamps that go on the shocks. We are replacing these shocks, so that's why I'm using this. Otherwise, you don't want to use this if they're weak, but not completely gone. Just let it go. That may be one of the first things I'm going to do to this because this is scary. Here's what's wrong with this car. Let's look here. I already have this cover off. We're looking at it. The cooling system is complaining a lot. First thing, this heater valve is basically a couple bumps away from leaking everywhere. Same thing with the radiator. And then the biggest thing with this car is, which is really the biggest problem with this, alternator's out. If you don't know about this, the Century has a very, very expensive alternator for some reason. You can get the V8 alternator and whatnot, but this is a collector car and they want it to be perfect. Now this is missing the cover over there. The owner actually has the cover. They took it out to replace the battery and didn't put it back, so we'll get that as well. But the other thing with this engine is the hydro fan is leaking. This has a hydraulic fan, so you're going to see that unfold in front of you. The valve cover gaskets are leaking so bad. It's unbelievable how bad they're leaking. And there's some suspension work needed. We'll take a look at that in a sec. We'll lift it up. And there is some brakes, multiple odds and ends. One of them is this mirror have gone on vacation a little bit. It's a common thing with these, by the way. Here's the, how should I say, this is the norm. If you give majority of technicians this car, here's their response. I don't want to do anything with this car. I don't want to work on it. I don't want even to be in the same territory as this car is at. When it comes to yours truly, this is the response. I love this. I really love this. I am super excited, and I know I will regret saying that because we're going in blind. There's no manual. There is no instructions. I will not come and say, oh, I am extremely experienced with this. Nobody can actually say that because there's only 9,000 of these cars in the world and of this V12. So let's lift it up. Let's take a little tour underneath it, and then we're going to dive into the unknown because I'm super excited. I'll regret that, but we'll see. Okay, here's something about these Centuries. When you look at this, I mean, I see no oil leaks. Do you? This is the biggest problem with these cars. You have to look. Because where this car was parked, there is a giant puddle. Let me take this cover and you'll see what I mean. Now let's take a look. Yeah. And yeah, it's yeah. Mind you, this car have been sitting basically before we brought it here, and then it's been sitting in our shop for a while as we got parts for it. But if you look up, there it is. If you look up, there's actually oil coming all the way from the valve cover down on this side. And here is the biggest problem, that if you ever buy a Century, this is the first thing you look at. When you looked at it with the cover, you could not see anything. Look at that radiator. It is soaking wet with oil from the valve cover. That's the first thing you'll look at, because this alternator is very expensive. I think north of $1,000 just for the alternator, plus shipping, plus getting it here, if you can get it at that price. And then here's the really the concern of the customer. Alternator they knew about, didn't know that there was oil leaking on it that took it out. But here's the other thing. If you look here, come around, look right here. That exhaust is, yeah, that's a pretty big barbecue on the exhaust. All the oil from the valve cover is leaking right on the exhaust. And that's what ends up happening with these. That's why you may not see stuff on the oil pan, but you gotta look there. The next thing is this strut rod, which is super common on these and the LS400s. If you look at it here, if you turn around and look, every time you hit the brakes, the whole thing moves and you feel like a thud. Same thing on this side. This is a very common thing with these, and equally the LS400, where this thing is just coming apart. And then this car, this is another common thing with Centuries, front sway bar bushings. They love to cause like a weird wallowy feeling in the front. And if we're gonna do that, we wanted to refresh the feel of the car, we're gonna do steering rack bushings, because this one is not even touching the rack anymore. And then it needs brakes all around, and then the mirror, and then the side gutters, not gutters, what do you call them? The visors. They're all loose and rattling. This is another common thing with these. But I want you to look at something with this car. It needs a lot of work. But again, this car might have been off the road for the past 10 years plus. So all this stuff is just from sitting. But look at the rest of it. It is absolutely rust-free. That's the first thing. And we don't really have any issues in the back. Everything looks great other than the brakes. There has been one thing with this car which the owner is not repairing at this time. There is a ding here which seems to be, I see a lot of Centuries like this. And here. And believe it or not, this beautiful chrome bumper, it's a two-piece bumper, the top and the bottom. They're both available. They're not, completely discontinued. No, you can buy them. Super expensive. If I recall correctly, this was $2,500, just the bottom piece chrome. Again, we're not looking at a Camry, Corolla, 4Runner. This is a Toyota Century. A lot of the parts here are shared with the LS400, but a lot of them are not. For example, the rear rotors and the rear shims are from a LS400, but the pads are not. That's, yeah. Here's what we're gonna do. I think we're gonna start with removing the radiator, which means we're gonna drain the coolant. We're gonna head towards, because, yeah, if you look at this radiator, folks, this is not salt. This is the radiator just said, I've had enough from sitting and not doing anything. So we're gonna remove the radiator, we're replacing all the hoses. We are fixing, if you look up here, it might be difficult to see it, but it's being thrown around. The hydro fan motor is actually leaking oil. Believe it or not, we could get that. So we were about to tear it down and see what we can reseal about it, but they're available. And why are we gonna start mending things if we can fix them properly? So let us start this job, and I just gotta say this, we are gonna find a lot of surprises here, but shortly, once we're done with the first section of the time lapse, we're gonna take a close look at the inside of the V12. That'll be pretty cool.
Let's grab some popcorn and let's sit down. Let's talk about the beautiful Toyota Century. So the Toyota Century is, when you look at it, it literally, for the average Joe that doesn't know what it is, it looks like a, how should I say it? A taxi cab from Japan, a Crown. That's what the taxi cab in Japan, it looks almost identical. But that's the whole point. See, the Toyota Century is a symbol of conservative success in Japan. That's the whole point of it. It's not meant to be flashy. It's meant to be humble, but at the same time, exclusive and just conservative. That's the whole point of it. That's why it looks the way it does. And that's why they rarely change. And there's something about the Century. The Century's been around since 1967 to today. And throughout all this time, there's only 3 generations. That's it. First generation, which is the very kind of the original model spanning from 1967 all the way to 1996. So that model had 3 different V8 engines throughout the years. It just changed as emission requirements changed. Honestly, that generation, it's very nice for its time. But today, it's old. So they're not actually they're collectible, yes, but not fetching high prices. It's an old car and has a very unique V8 that just, yeah. Then come the biggest one that will always remain special, the G50 V12 generation, which started in model year 1997, although sales started in 1996. It is so special in every single way. I mean, it remained exactly almost the same from 97 all the way to 2016. And the reason it is special, first, it was the first and the last V12 engine fully designed in-house by Toyota exclusively for this Century. It didn't share anything with any other model. It was exclusive. Then it was the only Century that was ever exported to different markets. See, the original one, first generation, never exported. Third generation, never exported. This was the first one that was ever exported. But however, there's only like around 100 that were exported, and they were left-hand drive for promotional purposes. Certain countries requested them, whatnot, but that was it. And here's the best part about the Century. When I say this number, it'll sound like a lot, but bear with me. In total, there's 9,573 G50 V12 Centuries ever made from 1997 all the way to 2016, with the 2016 being the rarest at 100 units, and 1997 being the most common and 1,676 units produced. And this particular car we are working on, which is 1999, it is 1 out of 691 units made. That's it. That many, that little Centuries, you look at the 9,000 number, majority of them were in 1997. That's the beauty of this. Now, this generation remained exactly the same body throughout, with minor changes here and there. So from 97 to 99, things were about the same. They were pretty similar electronics-wise to some model in the US, which is the LS400. Now in 2000, 2004, the screen in the middle changed. Now it's a touch screen. The transition to a better navigation, it's similar to that of the LS430 actually. Then the single biggest update to the Century was in 2005. From 97 all the way to 2004, we had a 4-speed automatic transmission. In 2005, we have a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now, information on the Century is very scarce, so it is unclear which exact transmission is in 2005 and up, but my hunch would be it's a similar 6-speed to that of the LS430 in the facelift model. Now, this is where information is not 100% accurate because it's conflicting, and of course I don't work in Japan. These were exclusive to Japan, most of them. So around 2010 some changes happened. Headlights changed to clear glass. Backup camera was standard now, or it was added as an option. This is the part where it's not clear. The engine did receive multiple revisions through its time span, mostly for emissions, not really changing the power or making it different. It's just for emissions. So I'm assuming catalytic converters possibly different, some engine management stuff, but the engine itself remained exactly the same. And that generation of G50 was the only V12 ever made, because the next generation, third gen, some say it's 2018 started, it's actually 17, so there's like another conflicting information. That started and is still going till today. It's exactly the same generation. That had a V8 hybrid, and that was similar to the LS600H, which is sold in the US. Not exactly the same, but it's similar powertrain. This car is just a statement of Toyota's engineering. The car is nearly entirely handmade. And even though they obsess over the tiniest little detail with this car, I've seen a few of them now. I'm not going to say I've seen a lot, I've seen hundreds. No, I've seen a few. And you always notice everyone has its unique characters. That's the paint being one of the massive standout. I've talked to Jason from Car Supplies Warehouse, who detailed a couple now. He says it's very fragile to work with this paint, but it's just impeccable how it is applied to the cars, and it's very difficult to reproduce it when cars are crashed. Now, these are very rare and exclusive cars, folks. Some folks will take them for granted because they're not expensive to buy, because they're so expensive to maintain and keep, and difficult to work on at times because everything is different from any other Toyota model. But here's the best part about the Century though. Toyota still admires this car because they nearly offer every single part available. Even though it takes some time with some parts, but really every single Century we worked on, we ordered parts for, everything's been available. I haven't run into a single discontinued part. That just tells you it's such a rare car that they still make every single part for it. That is just pretty impressive. Folks, you may see it as a humble car, looks like a taxi cab from Japan, but until you see one in person, it is truly special. And it's not we may talk about a few things in the engine here that may make it appear that way, but it is just a masterpiece. And this is, I have already informed Mrs. Carcarnut, which hopefully she agrees at some point. We gotta keep her happy. There will be a Century in my life at some point, because this is the highlight of my career right here, working on these cars and trying to be an exclusive repair shop for these, because they are starting to come in the US. 90% of them are 97, very few other model years, but we're trying to be an exclusive repair facility for these because they're truly special, and it's the highlight of my career. Let's go back to the live video as we take it apart. And there is the Toyota's only V12. Just look at it. Beautiful. Looks like two inline sixes. It looks like two V6s put together. It is just beautiful. And just to set the record straight, you remember when I was super excited at the beginning? I'm still very excited, but this is, for lack of a better word, terrifying. There's no other way to say it. And Jose's opinion on this, you've seen now through the lens of the camera, a lot of work that we've done, a lot of big jobs and whatnot. This is one of the most intensive ones in Toyota land. Maybe German cars, some of them are mega complicated, but in Toyota land, this is probably the most work you will ever do to get to valve covers. And we're not even pulling cylinder head or doing some major, just doing valve cover gaskets. This is the most involved you will ever see in Toyota land. Justifyingly so, because it's a V12. Let's dive into it so you guys will get an up-close look at the beautiful 1GZ FE, Toyota's only V12. This is a 5-liter V12. Here is the interesting part about it. There is a lot of strange stuff here. Strange decisions. You can tell that this was not built with service in mind. Let's dive into it. First is a timing chain engine. So if you look here, here's a timing chain. It's actually a single timing chain. And it's a VVTi engine. Here's where things get extremely strange. This style VVTi I have not seen before at all.
Never seen it before. This is I was expecting when we get here, it'll be like a 2JZ, even like a 3S. We've done a 3S before here. No, this is completely just unique to this engine, at least from what I've seen in the US stuff. Then this is a typical Toyota design. You have dual overhead cam that are meshed together here. You only have one part where it attaches to the chain. And here's the just when things get strange. There is this oil pipe that actually transfers oil from here to here or from here to here. I am not exactly sure because we don't have any info on this engine, how like internal workings and whatnot. So this is an oil pipe. I've also never seen that. I've seen like baffles, not baffles, like an oil spray or whatnot, but never seen this. This is pretty interesting. This engine, of course, doesn't have hydraulic lifters or anything. It has just regular caps like any Toyota engine you'll see. But this was the surprise to me. If you look down here, this has shims, not even buckets. It does have buckets underneath them, but they are shims. This is a very old school design. And they had it in this one, and they are gold in color. It's pretty cool. Then we get to the strange stuff. And this is where, yeah, I am not looking forward to do a head gasket on those. So the 9,000 or something odd V12 Century owners, please don't overheat it because you're going to be very sorry. Because this is, yeah. Let's take a look at a few strange things. So the only cars I've seen do this are German cars. The cylinder has one piece. This is all part of the cylinder head. So the chain goes through the cylinder head, through the head gasket, and comes up here. So if you want to take this apart, you gotta undo the tensioner. I'll show you the tensioner in a second. You pull this chain up, take this cam out from underneath it, and then remove the cylinder head. So the chain will just basically dangle here because you can't pull the chain out. You can't pull the gear out because this is one piece. And then if you look down here, there is a front timing cover, which is right in this area. You see where it bolts up here? But the head gasket sits on top of it. So basically, if the front cover decides to leak on this, you have to pull the cylinder heads off, both of them, to do that front cover. That's why German cars are complicated. And this thing is screaming German car to me. That's the first thing. The second disaster, and this is, I call it the disaster. This is an early VVTi. Watch where the oil control valve is, which if you have a 2JZ, MZ engines with VVTi, they're notorious to seize up and kind of cause intermittent rough idles and whatnot. Look where they put it on the V12. Right here. This is the OCV valve. I mean, I can barely see it, let alone pull it out. That's the first problem. The worst one is this one, which you can't even see. It's right here. Yeah, that's, you could tell the complete and absolute afterthought. I mean, even in a V12, they have afterthoughts. They have a little wire here, the jumper wire from the OCV valve to the main harness. In any other Toyota model, they'll be right there. They're made part of the main harness. Here they give you a little tiny baby harness to connect to it because you can't get the main harness to go there. And disconnecting it is going to be a nightmare. So they, of course, didn't do it for service. Did it for assembly. I get it. Now, the chain tensioner, and this is the interesting part. I haven't seen really a Toyota engine has it in this location. If you look down here, you actually can see the tensioner. It's right there. Right on the guide, right there. That's it. And this tensioner is pushing at the guide in a very strange angle. It's almost like, here's the guide. Normally tensioners will push this way on the guide. This one is like pushing this way. So the guide has a very strange curve. Very difficult to show you, but the interesting thing is the chain tensioner is here. It's gonna be near impossible to show it to you on camera. I'll put some light here, we'll try. But it's right there. You see a little bit rusty. Right there. That's the chain tensioner. See it has two studs and two nuts. That's the chain tensioner. Very strange location. Again, I'm gonna say this. This is terrifying. The reason it is terrifying is you have no support, no manual, although we bought a manual online translated, but it's missing half the stuff. anything that goes south here, we are waiting a month to 2 months to get parts. Some of these parts are made to order. So yeah. And then the harness is very fragile, extremely fragile. And what makes this even worse, I am not the first person to go here. Somebody's done spark plugs on this, because the spark plugs are not factory plugs. That's number one. Number two, there is broken connectors. There is stuff that are loose all over the place. And unfortunately, I can't see if there's anything missing. I don't see anything that obviously is missing, because how many V12s are you going to do in your lifetime? That only 9,000 cars exist in one country that is not ours. That's the other thing. But that's the engine, and we had to hang the harness. That was the best way to do it. If you ever do one, I don't know if now this is a super rare car, but if you ever do one, this is the best way. Just hang the harness out of your way, and you can work with it. Then let's look at the front here. Then we'll go check out the carnage. There's a lot of stuff that came out of this engine. Now you saw it, but you'll see it in person. Let's take a look here. This is a very weird setup. First, look at this massive harmonic balancer. Massive. That's a 30 millimeter bolt in the middle. It reminds me of an 80 series. Not even, this is bigger than an 80 series harmonic balancer. But here's interesting stuff. This is a power steering pump. This is the alternator, which we are replacing because it's done for, it's full of oil. This is a belt tensioner. This is a water pump. And then there's two idlers. They're giant, massive V12 style idlers. And then here's the AC compressor. This is a very strange old school design. That's how they used to look like. And then what is this? So the Century actually has a separate pump only for the hydro fan. So the Toyota has three designs when it comes to this stuff. The Century, which has a separate pump on the side. Some of the SC400, like in the US, that's a model that came here that I know of, has a separate pump, but it's part of a bracket. The fan bracket basically became the hydro pump. And then one JZ engine has a built into the water pump, super complicated thing, but that's the third design that I know of. Probably there are more, but this one has a separate pump for the hydro fan. Massive belt. That's of course to be expected. Let's look at the small stuff. Just if you are the engineer that designed this engine or designed this car, first, love the car. Second, really dislike the mirrors. I used to love these mirrors on the fender. I just gotta say, working around them for our Japanese folks out there that have a lot of cars with fender mirrors, this is a thing in Japan, I feel your pain. They're terrible. This one is broken and we are replacing it, so I was less careful with that one. But this one, we are not replacing, because it is perfectly fine. It is completely and absolutely in the way. I mean, I'm basically shuffling around it just not to be around. It's a horrible thing for service. I got to a point where I was like, why don't we just remove them out of the way, because it is absolutely in the way. That's the first thing. Second thing, just bear with me. You're charging the AC on this car, okay? This is the high side. So many Toyotas in this era, they have it right here next to the dryer. High side. What do you think the low side is? It's very easy to see right now once I maneuver the mirror. It's right here. Now once I put everything, that is the worst place in the planet for it. You can't even, I mean, when the car is all assembled, this is a very difficult spot to get to. Why? I mean, that same thing will run down and go all over. Why don't we put it somewhere else? Don't know. And then the massive amount of vacuum hoses. And the biggest one, before we go look at the massive amount of vacuum hoses, the cam position sensor. They could have put it anywhere, but they decided to put it the Toyota way. All the way here. So easy to see it right now, not so easy to get to it. That's not a good place for it, Toyota. And there's the other one right there. That's a terrible place. And then this massive contraption in the back. So I don't even know, why do we need that? It's like a metal pipe connect to hose and hose. This is for the bypass and the heater hoses. And then this contraption here, there's another one back. This is an afterthought. Sorry, some of you will jump and say, what, on a V12? This is an afterthought, and that is a bigger afterthought. Having said all that, let's go look at the valve covers. If you worked on the only engine that I can think of that is bigger than this is a 1FZ if you ever worked on one. It's a massive valve cover, of course. The reason it is massive, because this is a chain engine. You have this extra part. It's not really wide, but it's massive. And here's the biggest part that is fascinating to me. This is, as far as I know, if you know another one, please tell me in the comments. This is the only Toyota engine that I remember that the baffle is removable and it has bolts. Which I love this, because we're going to take this off. We're going to clean the inside of this with our Vixen machine and get it looking like new. And this is the only reason we do not do inside the valve covers, because you can't remove the baffle to get all the sand out and clean it out properly. Well, this one you can. It does have sealer around it, but that's not a problem. We can clean it and do it, which we're going to do. And the only casualty we had here was this bolt, which holds a noise filter. Now, I have to admit that is a very scary bolt to drill, because this is not an open hole at the bottom. I'm going to try to drill it. If this doesn't work or I'm not comfortable with it, because that noise filter needs to have good contact, we're actually going to relocate it to one of the other places just to make it to get its ground and move on, because I do not want to ruin a valve cover on this. That's no. Then there's another strange thing on this valve cover. There is this. And initially, I thought, okay, maybe this is some port that is blocked. But then when we looked on the inside, it's like, huh, there's nothing here. So what is that? And I just got too curious and I pulled it. Well, it's just a stud. Isn't that a giant afterthought? Maybe this is for an option if this particular one doesn't have, and they just put this nice plug. Very nice of them to put it, but this is kind of strange. This massive valve cover. We're going to actually replace the spark plug tubes, spark plug wires. Speaking of, let's go look at them. So to do a valve cover gasket on a V12, you just have to remove all this stuff. Nothing major. Yeah, there is a lot of stuff. And here's the interesting part. So you saw me struggling with these, and you might be wondering, what are these? So these are vacuum reservoirs, and there's two of them. I'm surprised that there's two. Usually there's one in these older cars. This is because there's so many things that run off vacuum. You want to have a reserve so these things would act immediately, because there's a lot of vacuum switching valves or VSVs here, like this one. This one, and there's one there, and there's one here, and there's all over the place. There's a lot of vacuum activated stuff in this engine. This is just unbelievable. So they have these, but I'm surprised why they have two. And here's another strange thing. So this has two throttle bodies. I get it. But look at this strange contraption here. So both throttle bodies, they have coolant hoses. That's standard. But they kind of share the same coolant, and they have this giant thing that runs across. Just very strange setup. That's how they did it. And then this is actually the plenum. This is not the intake manifold. The intake manifold is still on the car. So this is a two-piece plenum. Some said you could remove these in one piece. I already have the gaskets for them, and they get out of the way and they make things much easier. I'm just gonna remove them. And then the battery tray was the last one I removed. It made life a lot easier with the harness, because there's a harness on the side that makes things more difficult. But this is very involved. There's no other way to say it. And you know what? Anyone can take a car apart. Very easy. Just take stuff, throw it, doesn't matter. Assembly, though, is going to be interesting, because I want to say that my memory is really good. I've been doing this for some time, but I'm worried about the vacuum hoses. I mean, you reroute one of them wrong, and now we're chasing after a ghost for a while. That's a problem. And for Century owners out there, there's something I wanted to show you. This is the battery tray. You notice it has a water drain. That's old school. Toyotas and Lexus used to do that. Here's an interesting thing. I guess when they built the Sentry, they didn't feel like they needed to design an entire J-hook for this car. What we have will do. So they put a two-piece J-hook. This is the biggest afterthought in this car. I mean, I thought this car was gonna be like, this is the halo of halos. This is the top. This doesn't tell me that. That's all I'll tell you. So I am seeing a little bit of a part that's been special. Now the radiator, that's the last part that, if you've never seen a hydro fan before, this is it. They're actually used in some diesels because there is no fan in the planet that is stronger than a hydro fan, period. Some will disagree on that, but this is the reality. Because electric fans, you can only spin them so fast based on the motor. And mechanical fans, well, you're stuck with the engine RPM. You have the clutch, but you have no real fine control, and you can't rev it up extremely high. This can spin faster and create more airflow than any electric fan. I mean, back in that day, this basically creates a storm. And some engines in Toyota lineup, like the 1JZ, this is the only fan that can keep it cool, even today in a track use. And that's a performance engine. This is not. But they do this for quietness, because a hydro fan is super quiet. Like when it runs at idle speed, it is super quiet. You don't feel it, but it's very efficient. And this is a massive radiator, by the way. It is massively leaking as well, and it has seen better days. Same thing with these hoses. They're all super soft. Like, look at this hose. It's super soft. These hoses have seen better days. They've just been sitting and sitting and sitting. That's why. Of course, we got to show you the coolest thing. Engine fan fluid. So, yeah. They do exist. This is not like blinker fluid. Folks, this is one of the greatest adventures for me. I'm just going to say, I mean, this is work for the shop. I'm doing this for a customer, but I love this kind of work because here's the reality of automotive repair. Once you've been doing this for a long time, and any technicians watching, please chime down below about this part. You've been working in the industry for a long time, and cars have their common problems, and you're just kind of cycling through them and doing the same thing over and over. It becomes very repetitive. And getting something like this every once in a while, first, it's a big challenge. Second, it's an adventure. I don't know what we're doing here. Let's figure it out. That's what gets mechanics excited about stuff like this. I look at it. I love this thing as much as nerve-wracking as it is, but I love it. One thing I'll say before we get back, because we got some cleaning to do, lots of it. If you own one of these Centuries, this is a trend that I am seeing that I'm going to warn you about. These are basically an equivalent of a Rolls-Royce that is reliable. That last part, don't take it for granted, because if you bought one of these with the idea that you're going to daily drive it, it's a reliable car, it's a cool car, I'm going to daily drive it on a budget and whatnot, you are very mistaken. Because parts for these are extremely expensive, and they're available, but extremely expensive. This is not a daily driver. I mean, this car has 63,000 kilometers. That's nothing. For a Toyota, that's nothing. Do you see the amount of stuff that it needs? This is normal, folks. First, these are older cars. Second, they are not simple cars. They are not DIY cars. Certain things, yes, but they're not your cheaper alternative. I'm going to buy this from Japan because their prices are not expensive. I'm going to buy this from Japan and use it as a daily driver. That is a very bad idea. This is a collector car, not a daily driver. So I hope this video kind of puts that message across. Having said that, here's the plan. I'm going to put you guys back on the time lapse because I got to focus and figure this out. We're going to first take off the baffles. And then we're going to deploy our Vixen Aqua Blast to make these look like new, although, kind of have been talking about this, nobody will see these. We're going to clean these and make them look like new, and then they'll sit there, nobody will ever see them. But you know what? I will see them, you guys will, and that's good enough for me. Let's get to work. Yeah, it's as the title said, this is a month later, almost a few days, and it's gonna be a month. Our plan didn't work out. Let's just put it this way. And the V12 just decided to kick us out for a month. Got the valve cover out, cleaned it. I actually even got to a point where I took the spark plug tubes, we took the baffle, we resealed the baffle, we did everything. And we cleaned it, and we discovered a crack. Now we tried to repair it to see what's going on, but it kept extending. We stopped. You can clearly see the crack right here. Extends all the way. Now this is the only crack that we were able to see that goes through, but there is a lot of these little stress cracks all over the place. See them? None of these are through, but yeah. Here's the problem, and in case you're not aware of this, most cars, you're gonna have an aluminum valve cover. Aluminum is good, heavy, but good. This valve cover is not aluminum, this is magnesium. Magnesium valve covers are, okay, how should I say? It's the worst idea in the planet, that's number one. Number two, they're super sensitive. Cracks is one of their common problems. Warpage is their second common problem. And if you drop them, they just shatter, and yeah. Here's the problem with this. This is a heat area, and if this was a simple V6 where the valve cover is right there, well, let's take our chances. We repaired it already. Let's take our chances and see what happens. This is not exactly, as you have seen so far, not exactly a half an hour job. It's a lot to get to them. So I could not make this call. I stopped. We attempted a repair. I think this repair will hold. However, I have my doubts that the epoxy we use that is supposedly meant for magnesium is going to hold, because something with magnesium is nothing sticks to it. Welding is a problem because this is a baffle, and then you put so much heat into this magnesium, you may warp it, and now we have problems. And the crack on this side almost goes all the way down. I'm just worried this crack would grow. Okay, if we drill it, you can't really drill through magnesium very easily. It's not a simple thing to stop the end of the crack. So, gave the customer an option, the owner of this car. Look, we can go with this repair and hope for the best. It'll hold initially, but for how long? 3 years, 5 years, or 2 weeks? I really could not tell you, because this is, as far as I can tell, this is one of the biggest magnesium valve covers you'll find on a Toyota land. I believe some variants of the 2JZ had magnesium valve covers, but not a lot more. So, kind of experimenting here. Actually, the owner, and I'm so proud of him, because they are proper Century owners. You don't cheap out and experiment with these cars. You fix them right. So, he did not only want new valve covers, he wanted both of them replaced. Folks, this is a brand new valve cover from Toyota. And I am noticing something. This has a coating that the other one does not have. That's the interesting part. Now, I don't know if this had the coating and kind of wore off with heat, but the part number is different. It is a superseded part number. So We have two brand new valve covers, and in case you haven't seen how this comes, this is how a Century valve cover comes up. It does come already with the baffle installed. Isn't that beautiful? Comes with the baffle installed, spark plug tube seals installed already. I am terrified of this thing, so I'm going to put it to the side because magnesium valve covers are not fun. If you drop it, it's over. So, unfortunately, we spent so much time trying to clean this, and of course, it didn't turn out nice. I don't know why it leaves all these stains. They never come off. Usually, aluminum will turn brand new. All for nothing. Hey, as long as the car ends up being fixed and fixed well, that's all I care about. So, we're gonna get back to it a month later. I just would like to take this moment to seriously ask you for something. Some prayers, some healthy wishes. I was super excited getting to this job, and we got it. It's been a month. I'm getting old. It's going to be a lot of where does this go? Spending a lot of time trying to find where one bracket goes. But could be worse. If we go into it with the right attitude, I think we'll get it done. So let's get to it.
Let me share with you some of my experiences with Centuries, Toyota Century owners, and the overall expectation. Because at any given point in this video, you may be intrigued by seeing how beautiful these cars are. And you may go on Google, search for Toyota Centuries for sale, and you see them and be like, ooh, I can afford that. That would be a very cool car to have. I want you to, before you proceed, hear me out here. Something about the Toyota Century, and the biggest problem with the Toyota Century currently that I see in the US, there's enough of them that eventually you'll see one pop up for sale pretty frequently. The problem with them is you will not find nice ones for sale easily. You will usually find the ones that the owner bought them, enjoyed the car for a bit, then the problems started. Then they tried and it didn't work out, then they want to move on from it. That's unfortunately usually which Century you're going to find. With that, I want to share with you some common things that I see all the time with Centuries. First thing is rust. Rust is a big problem for Centuries, folks. Certain parts of Japan, they use heavy salt, and these rust pretty badly because, again, they're not really meant for, we're going to drive them through winter storms and whatnot. These are luxury cars, folks, and ultra luxury car. This is not even like a regular Lexus. The biggest problem with rust is, here are the common things. I'm not worried about suspension. Suspension you can replace, you can repair, whatever the case. Exhaust. You get a Century with rusty exhaust, things are going to get expensive. And if you start patching it, it's going to start vibrating, and then you're going to just be like, well, why did I buy this if it's going to just be another vibrating car? The whole point of it is how nice it rides and how quiet it is. The second thing is the body. The first thing you want to do if you look at a Century, before you even get mesmerized by how nice the interior is, because these are truly, I call them the most distracting cars for a buyer. Don't look at the whole car, ignore it. Try to, it's hard, I know. Go look at the rear glass. Right around the bottoms of the rear glass and the corners, if you see any rust bubbles there, and you gotta sometimes look, because sometimes it's gonna be a tiny bubble. Be careful. You see that? Start really looking hard at this car. Look underneath it, look at the exhaust, start it, park it next to a wall, rev it. You hear any puffing from the exhaust, walk away. That's all I'll tell you, because these things get extremely expensive when you get into the exhaust. It's very exclusive, it's specific, and exhaust parts are very difficult to import from Japan. So heads up on that. The second thing you want to look at after this is the cooling system. I feel like the cooling system is a limitation on this car. As you've seen here, leaks are possible. Folks, there's something you need to know about these cars. They can be reliable, meaning they're well made, they're well engineered, they're not gonna fail and fail and fail. Like the cars that are at the level of the Century, you gotta look at Rolls Royces, you gotta look at Bentleys, some Maybach. These are horrendous cars. If you go buy a 1999 Rolls Royce, Bentley of any kind, it's just gonna bankrupt you immediately. This, on the other hand, is not like that. However, these are 25-year-old cars. And just like some older Lexuses, you're going through the phase. You may need an alternator. You may need to fix some leaks, some stuff that are worn out. Now, everything you're going to fix it and then see you in 25 years for the next service on that particular item. If you buy original parts and you do things right, you don't cut corners. This is the reality, though. These are 25 years old. So you go get into one that has every single common problem piled up on top of each other, the bill will start adding up. And if you bought it thinking this is a budget, fun car that we're going to just drive around and enjoy it, maybe I've seen some owners want to daily drive them exclusively through winter and salt and everything, that's not a good idea, because you'll end up cutting corners because costs will start adding up. And when you cut corners with Centuries, they have a tendency of cutting you out of the enjoyment of ownership. So I'm just going to tell you that right up. These are collector cars. These are fun weekend warriors, cars you want to preserve. If you want to do things yourself, they can be intimidating, but certain things you can definitely do yourself. But do things right. Buy original parts. Unfortunately, I want to say research and understand, but there isn't much info on these. You can buy the repair manual, but it's not a very good one translated into English. The main thing is, and this is a problem I see all the time, folks will buy them and try to go into that whole VIP look where we're going to slam it to the ground, put a giant wheel on it, put some curtains and whatnot, all this stuff. You see one of those like that, just walk away. Do yourself a favor. That's all I'll tell you. Here's a problem with the Century. Air suspension. They all have air suspension. And air suspension, I think this is one of the best air suspension cars ever made. Honestly, I'll just flat out say it. But the reality is it's a 25-year-old air suspension. I haven't really seen problems with pumps going out and air leaks and this and that. But what I have seen a lot of is the shock part of the air shock fails. So this air shock, just like Lexus models, are the same way. You have a shock and then you have an air spring into one unit. The shock part usually fails. I mean, even this one that we're working on, you hit hard bumps, you'll hear them a little bit. You get into one that makes all kinds of clattering. Yeah, they are extremely expensive. You could get them, but they're very expensive. And this is what makes owners, when they see those prices, like, I'm not doing that. Then we start the problems. We start going, oh, let me find a conversion kit. Oh, you know what? I read on the forums that this strut will fit and it'll be fine. And let's get this coil over. Let's get this. Let me just stop right there and ask you one question. I hope the only reason we bought this Century is because how smooth, how quiet, and how beautiful it rides. And when you take the air suspension and start modifying it, or you get a air suspension controller to lower the height and destroy the bags, by the way, what is the point? And my biggest just question mark, I've seen videos online, well, sure everybody who's interested in the V12 have seen, when they put a super loud exhaust on the Century because it's cool. Hey, it sounds wonderful. But I'm sorry, did we just put a super loud exhaust on a car that they've spent the entire budget on making it super quiet? That I don't even know how much the Century makes horsepower because it's irrelevant. It's not meant for power. That's the problem. You do not want to buy a modified one. You think the ownership experience will be ruined, because the only reason you want to buy a Century is because of its craftsmanship, the way it's built, how quiet it is, how just insulated it is. I mean, even as a 25-year-old cars, folks, top luxury cars that you will pay just my house is worth for them, are not going to be this quiet. That's how impressive the Century is when it's proper. Something else with Centuries, seals and door seals especially, they're available, folks. You can buy them. They're actually not expensive to buy. These are, if you hear wind noises, they're actually common because this is a very complicated seal that wears over time. And maintaining its quietness and airtightness is something you might want to consider in a car like this. Here's another thing that I see. You'll get owners that will see these cheap, and I've actually run into a few that just I really try to just make them see reason and understand the point of these cars here. They will see them as alternatives to buying a Camry. Oh, but this one isn't cheap. It's old, well built, it's built like a tank. It'll last forever. And then when they buy it and the alternator goes and the valve cover leaks and the suspension starts falling apart, they'll start to cut corners. And I have seen this way too many times now to give you a heads up on this. The cars that you end up seeing for sale that sell for cheap are usually the ones that have had every single common problem. They try to mend them and patch them and whatnot, and it's just not working, and now they're nervous about it. They'll put them for sale and they'll sell for cheap. Be careful, because the nice ones can fetch high prices. And this is the problem. There's good stuff about having information available everywhere, and folks talking on Reddit, on YouTube comments, on Facebook groups and whatnot. The nice thing about that is folks are informed. The bad thing about that is there's a lot of folks that have never seen a Century in their life that will put their 2 cents. That's the problem. Because I've run into an instance with a gentleman that it needed an alternator, and I told him, we can get you an alternator from Japan. Here's the price. Oh, that price is ridiculous. I'm not paying that. Somebody said in the forums that you can put a V8 alternator. I'm like, sure, but I'm not going to put it in my shop. Because you want to fix this? Let's fix it right. Because the V8 alternator is not the same amperage. This car has a lot more electronics than an LS400 or LS430. And second, the plugs are not exactly the same. You're going to expose this wire to elements. And we go back to the main thing. Are we trying to mend this on the cheap, or are we trying to preserve it? Because the whole point of the Century, importing it, is that it is a rare car that is handmade almost entirely, that is exclusive. You want to keep that exclusivity. To me, any Century that is modified, the exhaust is modified, and then the suspension is slammed to the ground, has big wheels, and the chrome is painted to match the body color, to me, it is worthless. Because you have kind of took away what is special about these cars. That's why personally I want to buy one, do a lot of kind of experiments with it to see beyond what is the engineering, beyond what we can see. When it's my own car, I can really experiment with it. It's been very hard. Finding clean ones are very hard. They are everywhere. That's the ones that are I wouldn't even come near. They're everywhere. But the good ones, you won't find them easily. And there is one other thing I'll say. There is a dealership, Duncan something Motorsport, I believe he's a collector, that has a lot of them. My concern with those, and I tried to inquire on a few quietly behind the scenes, these have been sitting. They're nice cars. You have collected a really good collection of them, and I wish he wouldn't just let them sit there like that. They need to be serviced and kind of, I feel like, I don't want to say it, but rescued a little bit. But these cars have been sitting. They are asking premium, and I get it why they're asking a premium, because they have one of the best, lowest mileage, kind of most preserved examples, but they're just sitting. So you go buy one of these, expect you'll do some repairs, because this particular car we got only has 63,000 kilometers. That's nothing for these cars, but they're old, folks. You got to factor in the age. This is very important. Go into a Century with the right state of mind that I'm going to buy this car, we're going to fix it right. Sometimes it can be a DIY job. There's a lot of things you can DIY on this car if you're patient and you're doing things right. But you need to go into it being able to afford the repairs and the repairs right. See, the biggest problem for me as a shop owner, and we really are trying very hard to slowly become one of the trusted sources in the US for Century repairs. But the problem is, when I quote labor for a job, we have a conversation with the customer, because if it's a job we've never done on this car, we're more than happy to tackle it. We feel like we'll put 110% to be up to the task. But certain labor times, I can't just quote you a time. I'll do my best estimation. This is how much we're going to charge you. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. We keep them honest. If it's something that turns out to be a lot simpler than we anticipated, we'll lower the labor charge. But if it's more, we try to do it what we quoted, but it might increase. That's a reality, folks. There's no book for these cars. We can't anticipate every single job, and they're kind of one-off cars. So if you go into it with the right mentality, you're gonna really enjoy these cars, because they're just beautiful cars. And I can't wait for the day that Lord allows that I buy my own personal one, because I'd like to have one in my lifetime, kind of a bucket list item. But I'd like to buy the right one, which is a 2000 and up, ideally 2005 when we're able to import them, but they're very hard to come by. That's one thing I'll tell you. And with that, folks, the engine is almost back together. Everything is ready. We're going to start it. We're going to take it for a test drive. This was a very happy moment, because this engine just sounds amazing. So with that, let's go back to the live video. Let's hear that engine come to life. This car is done. Let's take it for a ride. Because when you work on a V12 Century, the best part is when you're done and you take it for a test drive. And if you haven't experienced a Century before, it is, how should I say it? Makes my fully restored LS430 feel like an economy car. That's the feeling. If you guys know Zach from Shooting Cars, he's a fellow YouTuber, super nice guy, a very good friend of mine. So he came to review the 600,000 mile Lexus, and the same day we had a Century that he took permission from the owner to film it while it's in the shop. He made a mistake of driving the Century first. I actually made the mistake of pulling out the Century first for him to drive. Because when he drove the LS430, he came back, he's like, why does it feel so loud? And I'm like, you've been Centuried. That's why. The way I describe the way this engine drives, folks, it's not a powerful engine at all. It's actually very underpowered, but that's precisely the point. But the magic of the V12 is it's just, you don't feel it. There's no vibrations. There's no noise. You don't feel it like struggling. It just glides through. And the way the insulation on this car and the suspension and everything, it is unbelievable. And I gotta watch my speed, because this is in kilometers. The speed limit is 45, so I'll keep it around 70 kilometers an hour to be safe. We're good. It is unbelievable how quiet it is and how smooth it is. Let me remind you one time, this is a 25-year-old car. Brand new cars don't drive like that. Brand new luxury cars don't drive like that. And I think the only thing that'll come close to this is gonna be, I don't know, a Rolls-Royce Phantom, some Bentleys, not even really some Bentleys. I think just the Phantom will come close to this. The ride quality-wise and quietness, it's just unbelievable. But the coolest thing about this is you can't help but think this is a humble car. I mean, look in front of us. There is an LS460, one of my least favorite LSs. That is too much. That's too showy. Even though it's actually not, it just looks like a normal car. But that's too much. The coolest thing about the Century is it's humble. And that's the nice thing about it. To me, the best thing about this car, and there's so many good things about this car, it's got to be the engine. It is magical. Yes, there are some strange stuff when we worked on it. You guys saw it. But the way it runs is magical. That's what I'm going to describe it as.
And something you may be wondering about, say a second thing that was in our way all the time, the mirrors, which now we have installed a new mirror. If you look at them, they take a second to adjust too, but once you do, I can see their point, because now you don't have to turn your head to the side to see the mirror. They're always in your view. So when you look at the mirror, you can still see the front. So I can see their point. And then that little parking guide all the way in the corner, that helps you park. That some folks have suggested that that's for a flag pole or whatnot. That actually is not the case. The flagpole, there's a flagpole, but it's very different than that. Folks, this car is just amazing. It showed up to our shop almost non-driving. Alternator was out, leaks everywhere, smoking and all kinds of stuff. But now the owner's picking it up tomorrow. I just spoke with him today. He's very happy because this turned out amazing. The only thing it has, which is something I can't help with, if you notice the steering wheel is slightly off center, and when I let it go, it pulls to the right. And the reason for that is we tried to rotate the tires around. It actually got better, it was worse. Tire pull. Because he just bought these tires, so he has a warranty on them. So he can get that taken care of, and we're good. Tire kinicity is a problem that causes tire pull, because the alignment is perfect on this. We double checked it twice just to make sure everything looks good.
Riding off into the sunset.
There is a lot of distractions in the shop. I mean, this thing has been the biggest distraction of them all. Now we have a new one. Oh, I love that one. Talk about that when we talk about that. Folks, the Century is done. Not just what you saw in this video, we actually did a lot more behind the scenes. We put the mirror that was broken, some suspension stuff, some interior stuff, like it had the ETC card reader, I think, or ATC, I forgot, or the tall way in Japan that has this thing, and it talks in Japanese every time you turn the key on. Customer didn't want it, so it's all gone, removed. There was a bunch of aftermarket GPS, hardwire, whatnot. All that is removed and back to stock. So I gotta say, this has been an absolute pleasure. Two pleasures have been with this car. First, the car itself. It's a beautiful thing. Although it came here very sad and injured, but all fixed up, all ready to go. Customers gonna enjoy it. The second and most important and biggest honor for me is the owner of this car is a veteran. He shared with me a long time ago when we first started this project. He was deployed in Japan at some point, and he used to see these cars, and that's how it became his dream car. Here it is. But when he bought it, some issues with it. But now it's all sorted, all better, and I could not be happier working on this car with all the challenges that we had to go through, but it's all done. That's, if you put enough patience, positive attitude, and persistence, you can really, as long as the Lord allows it, you can accomplish anything. And that's exactly what we applied to this one. Lord was on our side and everything went smoothly. Folks, I really hope you enjoyed this video. You enjoyed the deep dive into the V12. You enjoyed seeing this beautiful car transform and get back on the road for the owner to enjoy it. If you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.